Reilly here. Welcome to the No Spin News for Monday, April 21st, 2025. Stand up for your country. Well, the Pope has passed. Amazing story. Easter Sunday, there is in a Pope mobile after pretty intense 2 months of illness, double pneumonia, 88 years old. And he's out in Vatican Square, thousands of people. And then he talks to Vice President Vance. We'll get into all of this. It's an important story, even if you don't believe in God or the Catholic Church or the Pope or anything like that, because it clashes theology and politics. And that's going to increasingly become important in this world, not just in this country. And that is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. So Pope died at 7:35 this morning, Monday, in Rome. And he was 88, as I mentioned. And people were shocked because of yesterday's Pope Mobile appearance. And he looked very clear-eyed as he walked around and greeted everybody, and they were ecstatic. I was in Vatican City, I think it was 81 on Easter Sunday. It's an amazing thing to be there. And the Pope spent 17 minutes with Vice President Vance and gave his children, his small children, some chocolate eggs, and they had a nice conversation. It was not intense. The Vice President said that the Pope invited him. It was the Pope's invitation. So I guess Vance was the last outsider, famous person, to talk with the Pope. And I'll be interested to hear what the Vice President has to say about that conversation. He's in India now, talking to Modi, the Indian president, about, the tariffs and all this stuff that's going on. All right, a little bit about the Pope. Jorge Mario Bergoglio, born in Flores, Argentina, right outside of Buenos Aires, became a Jesuit priest in 1969. The Jesuits are the intellectual wing of the Catholic Church. It is a liberal group now. Back then, not so much. The Jesuits were involved in a movie, The Exorcist, in the book. Okay. He was appointed cardinal in 2001 by Pope John Paul II. Now, in that time in Argentina, I was down there covering the Falklands War, so I saw it firsthand. It was ruled by a military junta coming off Juan Perón. There was no freedom there, really. It was a police state. And most of the people were poor, desperately poor, because the oligarchy in Argentina stole all the money. Very important for you to understand that. So what the cardinal saw, then subsequently the Pope, was massive poverty fueled by corruption. And he became a liberation theologian. And many, many Catholic priests who work in the third world are that. The problem that Jorge Mario had was that he put the blame on capitalism for the poverty, and that was wrong. There is an editorial in the Wall Street Journal stating that. It wasn't capitalism that were keeping the people poor, it was the corrupt administration, government in Argentina run by a guy named Galtieri when I was there. And you had to fear him. Galtieri would have you killed. And I don't think there were stories about, how the cardinal didn't do what he should have done. A bunch of bull. All right, so then he gets to be Pope and he comes on in. And 8 years ago, I almost to the day, I met him in a very brief conversation, but I was in his proximity for 2 hours. And I'm a reporter, and I watched every move the man made. And he dealt with hundreds of people. He was exceedingly kind and patient. And he was 80 years old. And my interaction with him was just a greeting primarily, but he and I like stared at each other for maybe 15 seconds after I said Buenos dias. I addressed him in Spanish. And it was eerie. He didn't break my gaze. I don't know whether he recognized me or knew I was in the small group. I don't know. But it was just as something came off of him. Okay. So the Pope ran into trouble in America and some other European countries because of his, not sympathy so much, but promotion. I think that's a better word. He promoted illegal immigration in the sense that he said, if you are a Christian, you have to treat these people with dignity. That was everything. Now, on December 31st, 2019, 5.5 years ago, here's what I said. As for Pope Francis himself, he is a liberation theology guy. He lives in a world where religion, Christianity, and Catholicism are there to improve the plight of the poor. You must understand where he is coming from. That is his mission. The poor. Help the poor, the downtrodden, the incarcerated, the migrants. Help them, help them, help them, help them. It does not go against Christianity. It does not. The only problem with Pope Francis is he gets into trouble when his solutions make the poverty and migrant problem worse and hurt good-minded people, which he has done. The Pope has done that. Remember, when the Pope spouts a political opinion that had nothing to do with theology, he's not infallible, it's not dogma, it's not any of that. It's just his opinion as an Argentinian cleric, which is what he is. I like him. I think he's a sincere man. I think he tries to help people. And that's my bottom line for Pope. I don't need Winston Churchill in there. So I think that's the most accurate assessment you're ever going to get on Pope Francis. Now, if he's not in heaven, then there's no hope for me. Okay? But, and there is that but, he didn't analyze the migrant movements in a way that I believe was effective, number one, or responsible, number two. Now, I guess I'm committing a sin here calling a former pope irresponsible, but he wasn't actively trying to do that, but he couldn't see the big picture. And you'll remember his quote about the Trump administration, you have to build bridges, not walls. Well, you got to obey the law, Your Holiness. I wish I had been able to, I was close to getting an interview with him. And I wish I had, because that's what I would have said. You got to obey the law. The law is there for a reason, to protect people. You can't just say, I don't like this law, because it hurts some poor people. And it does. Our exclusion of everybody in the world who's poor hurts people. If they could come here, they'd be a lot better off. That's true, but we can't do it. You can't afford it. We can't supervise it. We can't assimilate it. No nation could on this earth. And that's the truth. So I put this up to the Pope being naive and living in a world of theory. And here's the kicker on Pope Francis. Jesus the Nazarene was exactly the opposite. Not in his compassion. Jesus was the most compassionate person ever to live, if you believe in the works, and I do. Okay? But Jesus respected the law. They tried to trap him with the coin thing. And then he said, render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's. And the message was, look, you have an obligation as a human being to help the downtrodden, to help everybody. That's Christianity. You've got to help other people. If you can't do that or won't do that, you can't be Christian. But you have to obey the law. even if it's Roman law. And Roman law was horrible. It was oppressive. There was no freedom. Tiberius made an order, you obeyed it, and you're on a cross if you didn't. But Jesus understood that he couldn't preach himself if he defied Tiberius. They would have killed him in a heartbeat, just as they killed his cousin, John the Baptist. They beheaded him because he criticized adultery on the part of the Roman governor. And if you're going to do that, you're going to die. And Jesus knew it. And Jesus' time was not to die. He needed 2 years to establish Christianity. So Jesus was much more realistic than Pope Francis. I get a lot of mail saying, well, Pope Francis has walls in the Vatican. He doesn't let everybody in. Okay, I got it. But that's not important. What's important is the mindset, all right? That you've got to help people if you're Christian, all right? You have to, you're compelled to. But you can't hurt people in the process. You can't hurt other people in the process. And I don't think Francis ever melded those two together. If he did, I didn't see it in the public statements. All right, so Donald Trump will be over there, and I was thinking about going, but I probably can't, but I'm going to think about it overnight to go to the funeral, but I don't know if I can do it logistically, but I'll think about it. And that's a memo. There is a growing real estate crime out there. The FBI calls it house stealing. Criminals forge your signature on one document, file it with a fake notary stamp. Just like that, your title's gone. Then criminals can take out loans or sell without you knowing. So, when is the last time you checked your home's title? Probably never, and the scammers know it. That's why I trust Home Title Lock's $1 million triple lock protection. You get 24/7 monitoring, urgent alerts, and if fraud does occur, they'll spend up to $1 million to restore your title at no added cost. Please go to HomeTitleLock.com. Use promo code BILL250 now for a free title history report and access to your title expert. $250 value when you sign up. HomeTitleLock.com, code BILL250. Okay, YouTube, O'Reilly channel, almost at 1 million. I mean, I wanted to be at 1 million by Easter, but we're almost there. www.youtube.com/Bill O'Reilly is the address, and we would like you to subscribe. It is free of charge, no charge. So I'm doing a thing on Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, my fellow terrier. We're both terriers. Do you know what that means? We both graduated from Boston University, and they're the terriers. So you will find out things you don't know about the Congresswoman if you watch my presentation on YouTube. Let's go to the mail. David Sill, Marion, Texas. Bill, for 20 years I've watched you. You've repeatedly stated bad behavior does not justify other bad behavior. Yet you recently said that President Trump, by not bringing back the father who was erroneously deported, will antagonize the Supreme Court. Would that not be behavior unethical on the part of SCOTUS? Yeah, but they're human beings. So if you're going to antagonize the Supreme Court by ignoring their rulings, remember they say they have to expedite the return of this guy to the United States from El Salvador, that's going to be in their minds. And maybe it'll play out, maybe it won't, but why, you don't want to do that. This is Brett Latham, Terre Haute, Indiana. I keep hearing that Garcia was mistakenly deported, but I never heard anyone articulate just what the mistake was. According to Justice Department, he has no criminal record here or in El Salvador, and all of the others who were deported had criminal records. That's why it was a mistake. If you don't have a criminal record, you're put in another group. Could be an undesirable, you could be whatever, but that's what the mistake was. Mike Milo of Calvert City, Kentucky, we keep hearing from more than one source that DOJ is finding so much waste that retirees will receive more in their monthly checks. Is that true? No, it's not. There's no linkage whatsoever. But again, I ask you, Mike, I didn't ask you before, but I asked other people, tell me who's telling you this nonsense. Tell me, and I'll take care of them. Sean Cochran, Hoboken, New Jersey, I agree with deporting illegal aliens, but why are they all being put in prison camps when they're sent back? Because they have criminal records. That's why, let's drop them off and say, hey, they're not going to let those people run around super unsupervised. They're dangerous people. Judy Levin, Roslyn, New York. There was a recent article in Wall Street Journal that claimed California Medicaid funds we used to pay for music and art classes. In Oregon, they used for cooking classes. Could that be why there's no money left to pay for healthcare? Sure. The waste. I'm going to do a big Medicaid thing soon. The next attack by the morons about, they want to cut Medicaid. And I'm compiling all the stats. They're unbelievable. Biden gave Medicaid to everybody. I'll give you one, Judy. There's only one state in the union that has work requirements to get Medicaid. Not you have to get a job. You have to look. Only 1 out of 50. Insane. But we have it. We'll present it. Lee, concierge member, which means Lee gets a special access to me. Below California, Oregon, and Washington State, very far behind Colorado in their totalitarian tendencies, is the same thing. Far left wants to ram down the throats of everybody else. Conservatives, traditionalists, religious people, whatever, their agenda. And they don't care about what the vote says. That's totalitarianism. Susan Valentine, Columbiana, Alabama. I have more worthwhile things to do than listening to propaganda, so that's why I only listen to the No Spin News daily. Thank you for providing well-documented facts. You are welcome, Susan. You recently shared about Trump's grenade approach to tariffs, which I agree. He's a little rough in the execution, but nails it on the big stuff. Yes, that is true. But now it's getting to be, you got to produce. Got to get those deals. And Susan wraps it up with, my coffee tastes better in my not woke mug. I actually compared my not woke mug to my other mugs, and the coffee was better. And tea, I drink Japanese tea, so it's a calming effect. And since I'm going to Japan soon, I want to get in the groove there. Okay, we got Chris DeSarlet, Denver, Colorado. As a right-wing leaning independent who finds himself agreeing with President Trump on many issues, I nevertheless feel uneasy with some recent declarations from his administration. They don't need to comply with court orders. Is this bluster, or is there a serious chance he would openly defy the orders? Nobody knows. I tend to think he's not going to openly defy Supreme Court orders, but nobody knows. Louise Martin, Kewishkam, Wisconsin, has finished reading The United States of Trump. Big book in Beijing, by the way, The United States of Trump. Everybody's reading it there. Fascinating, couldn't put it down. Finished it 2 days. What Trump endured is shameful and wicked. I'm not going to argue with that. I know other people don't, but I don't think he's been treated fairly by the media in particular. You expect it from the Democrats and the Trump haters, but the media, bad. Now we have a brand new thing for concierge and premium members called Tip of the Day. Starts tomorrow. And every day on the website, I'm going to put a tip that will make your life better. That's a lot of tips. Some of them will be frothy, entertainment. There's a good book to read. It's a good movie to see, whatever it may, that kind of thing. But some will be important, okay? Just for concierge and premium members, because we want to, there are Vanguard. So if you're thinking about it, it's a good time to come in. You get a free book, any book. Get Confronting Presidents, any other book you want. All right? When you sign up to be a concierge or premium, and if you re-up, you get another free book. Now, I can't make it any more cost-effective than that. Free book with the membership. Membership is not very expensive, but now you got the tip of the day. Tomorrow will be the first one. Okay? So get on that membership, BillO'Reilly.com. And then Not Woke Mom mugs. Got to get them because we're going to sell out. And May 11th is Mom's Day. If you'd like to give Mom a mug and a book, we've twinned it with Killing the Witches. A great deal and 2 nice presents for Mom. Word of the day, do not be a sophist. S-O-P-H-I-S-T. Sophist. We don't want that. Okay, final thought, which I think is going to help your life too in a moment. Bill O'Reilly here, emphasizing the importance of a safer alternative in threatening situations. Before using lethal force, consider the Byrna less lethal pistol launcher, a device designed to incapacitate an attacker with tear gas and kinetic ammunition for up to 40 minutes. It minimizes legal risks and permanent harm. We hear from a Byrna user, Adam, who faced a road rage driver. Armed with his Byrna launcher, Adam de-escalated the threat by aiming the laser at the aggressor. That allowed him to wait safely for police intervention. That night, Byrna not only prevented a potential tragedy, but also saved potential lives, all without physical harm. Byrna, legal across all 50 states with no background checks required, has sold more than 500,000 units. Please go to Byrna.com/Bill, save 10%, and learn so many Americans why they choose Byrna. That's Byrna.com/Bill to save 10%. Let's talk about something big pharma doesn't want you to hear. The government and drug companies suppress treatments like ivermectin and others, not because they didn't work, but because they threatened their billion-dollar vaccine rollout. They want control over your health, but when it comes to your health, you should be in charge. I trust All Family Pharmacy. They provide ivermectin, antibiotics, more essential treatments that can be hard to find. They handle prescriptions shipped directly to your door in days, no hassle, real options. Stock up now so you're prepared, whether it's for illness, travel, or just peace of mind. You never know when you'll need these medications. So please go to allfamilypharmacy.com/Bill. Use the code BILL10 for 10% off. Again, allfamilypharmacy.com/Bill, code BILL10. All right, final thought of the day. Easter Sunday, there was a problem I had to solve, and it was an important problem. And it was very complicated. It is very complicated. So I couldn't solve it. And I'm good at that, really good at it. I couldn't solve it. I'm not going to tell you what it is, because that's not the point of this final thought. But I spent a lot of time on Easter Sunday rolling this around, trying to get some kind of perspective to how to make this situation better. I just couldn't. I just could not find the pathway. So what I decided to do was nothing. Okay, that is the Eastern Asian way. When people who practice Buddhism, believe in Confucius, Shinto, when they come up against something that is not going to get better in the short term, they don't do anything. And then naturally things evolve. That's what I decided to do. But it kills me to do it because I'm type A. I can solve the problem. People come to me all the time, feel like Don Corleone sometimes. I have this problem. And 90% of the time I can solve that problem or give them. That's why we have the concierge membership. Give them some guidance. This one I couldn't do. But I know other things are going to happen that will bring me back into a solution. In the meantime, however, I have to protect somebody who's in harm's way because of this problem. I can't solve the problem, but I have to protect the person who may get hurt. There I came up with a solution. Okay? Now, I may be a little vague because I have to be. But if somebody is going to get hurt, then you put the problem aside that you can't solve and you build a firewall to help the person who's in jeopardy. And I did it. That took me 5 hours yesterday on Easter, but it was worth it. And that's the final thought of the day. So we Americans are an impatient people. We want, get those tariffs right now. Get that stock market up right now. Sometimes you just got to let it ride. Okay? But you can always provide protection. Sometimes it isn't easy. That is the final thought. We thank you very much for watching and listening to the No Spin News. I'm Bill O'Reilly. We will see you again tomorrow. Thank you for watching. To view full episodes of the No Spin News anytime, sign up to become a BillO'Reilly.com premium or concierge member today.